Welcome back to Built to Ship, the podcast where we go behind the scenes with founders and product leaders, shipping real AI products and features into the world. Today, I'm joined by Nick, co-founder and CPO at Celeria.ai, a platform that's focused on helping teams deploy reliable production-ready AI agents and integrate with the tools they already use. Nick, I'm excited to dive in. Thanks for coming on the pod.
Hey, Tyler. Thanks for having me. Also excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, yeah, let's start with the founding story and your background. What were you doing before Celeria? How'd you all come up with the idea, and why'd you start building the company?
Yeah. So again, my name's Nick, CPO and co-founder of Celeria.ai. So I've been in the industry for just about 8 years. I started 8 years ago, and I joined a startup out of my hometown, South Bend, Indiana. I actually dropped out of college, and I was the 24th employee. Very fortunate. When I joined the company actually had already found product market fit, and they are already doing 1 million in revenue. So when I joined, they kind of already had their product figured out. It was productized. So I was just a young chap, joined the team, and within those first 14 months, we took the company from 1 million revenue to 30 million revenue, and scaled the company from 24 employees to 140 employees. So that was my first intro into this realm. As you can imagine, we were in healthcare, so very compliant heavy. I got to work with all the
Was it more of a services business or software? Or?
Yeah, so it was actually both. So there's a reason I'm saying we didn't do 30 million ARR, is because there's a service portion up front, which was archiving healthcare data into our SaaS product, or into our product, and then there's kind of a annual fee to go along with that. So
makes sense.
Yeah, so it wasn't necessarily annual recurring revenue, but we did do 30 million. Some of that was recurring, some of it was not. But that was awesome. So I joined the company as a user acceptance tester. Left college, joined as a user acceptance tester. Then I joined the team full time as a quality assurance analyst. And then I kind of weaseled my way into product. So
amazing.
When I got into product, that's where I stayed. That's where I plan to stay forever. So that was a wild ride. That was very fun. And we had private equity that bought us while I was there. So that was really cool. And then from there, two of my colleagues actually went to a company called Choice, and kind of I followed along in their footsteps there. And two of those employees are my co-founders at Celeria. But at Choice, so this was interesting. We were the first to market to where you can invest crypto into a retirement account. So if you can imagine kind of two different markets, we have people who cared about retirement, and then people who cared about crypto. And then, if you can visualize a Venn diagram, that middle kind of circle is where our market was. Again, very heavy in compliance. And this was my first experience with B2C, so much different pace, very fun, and very wild, just being in the crypto boom, especially in like 2020 and when crypto kind of took off. So that was a very successful company. We custodied $22 billion in assets.
Wow.
So very large, very high stakes. And that we did have a B2B side to that, and I ran the pro division, interacting with money managers and things like that. But most of our revenue came from B2C. And then actually the co-founder of Choice introduced me to a gentleman out in London. And I worked out in London for 3 years, traveling back and forth from South Bend to London. And I worked for a company called Valerian Technologies. Very, very bright leadership there. We were in it is Valerian Technologies. So we're in cybersecurity technologies, and we dabbled into AI. So that was kind of my first introduction into AI. And leadership was able to secure 17 million in funding. And our CEO was actually Forbes 30 under 30. But just a really bright team. Change of pace from like being in the United States to not good or bad, just different, just very different. Yeah, so that was, I was there for about 2.5 years. I was head of product there, and then I took the leap of faith. So I have three other co-founders, so it's the four of us. And as I said, two of those individuals I worked with at two other successful startups. And they actually had been working on Celeria for about a year prior to me joining. So they're working on Celeria. Our fourth co-founder, he did some AI things at HubSpot. So the four of us, I joined the company, and about 2.5 months ago is when we released our MVP.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's kind of the story of how we joined forces and started tackling Celeria.ai. And in that time, we've done they've prior to me joining, there's two pivots in there, and then after I joined, there's like a slight pivot, same audience but a different product. And as of 2 months ago, like I said, we're up and live. We have 10 design partners and organizations working with us.
Amazing.
And every week we're deploying agents and building out agents. So
Congratulations. It's exciting to get the product into market, and having those design partners is huge. We're really thankful for our early design partners, because they really help shape the platform, right? You might have an idea for what you want to build, but really, if you're listening to customers, that's really what's going to shape the roadmap. So super impressive career. I think it's probably inspiring for folks listening, to go from, kind of QA testing and those kind of roles into product, and to get this kind of experience. And you just don't know where, life or your career will take you. Like you said, you had a founder who introduced you to someone else, and look where you are now. So
I think, I started off testing video games when I was like in high school and things like that. So that was kind of I wouldn't say that was my initial foot in the door, but yeah, if you have a passion towards something, all you got to do is work hard and stay at it, and things will kind of fall into place. Big believer of that.
Amazing. Well, I want to ask more about what Celeria does. You just launched your MVP. What does that include? What are the types of customers that these design partners are? Are they vertical SaaS companies? Are they services businesses? And, briefly, what does Celeria's platform do, and how are you helping them?
Yeah. So just, kind of high level of what Celeria does. So we are an AI agent. We are the AI agent operations platform. And what that means is we consolidate all of your AI agents, all of your AI costs, and all of your AI outcomes into one shared platform. So your teams can leverage AI reliably, and also so that leadership can measure the impact of AI across the entire organization. So that's you have your technical employees, you have your non-technical employees, and leadership collaborating in one shared place, to be able to build or like co-create AI agents, to be able to monitor those AI agents, and then to be able to optimize or iterate on those AI agents together.
Awesome.
So the types of companies that we work with, we're very open and general. I think the criterions that we do have, though, is that they have like a proper operations team, so that there's multi-department, complex workflows, cross-functional, this department speaking with that department, but they're both working on a single objective or a single goal. So a lot of cross-departmental collaboration there. And also just having, a telltale sign of like, yes, that person's in our ICP, is when we see people that are hiring for like AI operations leads or AI engineering leads. And our CEO is this title at his previous company. And you know, a lot of the problems that they're seeing is that right now they're having to vet through, 10 or more vertical solutions at once. So
Hmm.
they have marketing saying, well, I want this AI agent. And then they have sales saying, okay, well, I want this one. And then they have customer support. Oh, I need the Zendesk agent, or um, and so what that creates is, well, one, it's kind of tool sprawl.
Yeah.
So you have, Nancy from accounting using however she uses AI, and then you have, Billy from dev, him using it how he uses it. And leadership is just asking, like, okay, I'm spending thousands of dollars on for Nancy and for dev, and you guys tell me it's good and it's
Yeah.
working, but like I need some concrete factual evidence of like this thing, producing ROI.
And if it is producing ROI, I want to invest more in it probably, right? And I want to know where
Exactly.
I should be investing.
Yeah. Or if
Yeah,
it's not producing ROI, that's an area of opportunity. So that's,
totally.
we can either cancel that or spend some more, time and power and energy resources into that to kind of level that up. So yeah,
So you
absolutely.
mentioned you're bringing all this into one place. I totally see the need. This sprawl is something we're, seeing with everyone we're talking to. I mean, and it makes sense because there is so much opportunity with what to build with AI. So there's all these point solutions, but eventually that's got to probably consolidate. And it sounds like Celeria is the place to do that. Help
Mhm.
me understand. Are people building? Are you bringing in agents that are built on other platforms? Are they built in house by these companies? Do they build on your infrastructure?
Yeah.
Uh, you know, Give us an understanding of that. Is it all just like you have to build it on Celeria and that's where it happens, or can you take a voice agent from this company, an AI SDR from this one, an AI HR person from another product, and put them all under one roof?
Yeah. So to answer both. So we started off at first of we were, we allowed teams to collaboratively build agents on our platform. The behind the house there, that's not LinkedIn or anything. That's our home cooked that we've built and scaled internally. That was our main bread and butter. And then we kept getting asked a question specifically to like Claude Code, right? A lot of teams use Claude Code, and I personally think Claude Code's here to stay. It's amazing. It's awesome. Um, you know, yes, we have a code writing agent inside Celeria, right? It can do some smaller things. But we kept getting asked the question, like, there is going to be a vertical solution that I use outside of Celeria that's most likely going to happen, right? So how do we bring in, the impact of Claude Code of these other vertical solutions inside of Celeria, and that is something that we offer. So not only can you build, in Celeria that's managed and governed by Celeria, there's always going to be these tools that are just wonderful that you're like, oh, I love this thing, but you still have to report on that. You still have to understand its ROI, and how it affects your total AI operations, right?
Makes sense.
So yeah, twofold. Both. We allow you to bring in external agents to at least monitor those, and understand how it's impacting the organization, and then also the agents that you build inside of Celeria, obviously as well.
I see. And when it comes to use cases, what are your customers building in Celeria? What are they bringing in? Like, what are those? I mean, Cloud Code sounds like, code gen sounds like a big key use case, but what other things are they building? Chatbots? Are they building conversational agents? Are
Yeah.
they building just like summarizer features?
Yeah. So I'll start with like kind of the natural progression of what companies are doing from when they have no AI to, okay, I want to start getting everyone on AI. So at first, everyone's kind of using ChatGPT. They're using their phones or copy and pasting, potentially sensitive data inside of, ChatGPT. So the first step there is like, okay, let's continue to allow them to use all of the models that they love to use and all of these things, but let's now bring this and consolidate it, have some guardrails around it, understand how much Nancy's actually costing the company when she's terrible at prompting or whatever. um, and so that is the first step is let's get them in, let's maybe have some chat bots that can, be inside of their tools that they can just interact with data, right? We think of these agents as interns. You need to kind of give these interns, tools that they have access to, and also knowledge so that they can, do what they need to do. So we think about it exactly like that. So that first, step is just simple chatbot, chat agent. What do you even call it? There's no automation or anything going on. You're just talking natural language. That's step one. And then two is, okay, how do we implement a standard suite of AI agents across any particular business? And internally, we've been calling this like our standard agent suite. And the goal here is to say, across any company that has like operations, departmental, who's in our customer ICP, how can we out the gate allow them just to use these agents right away? It's not specific to their domain, not specific to their vertical. And so I'll kind of just touch on some of those if that's fine. And
Yeah, definitely.
the first one is a support agent. And what we do is, so we specifically are working with Zendesk, and we're looking to expand this past Zendesk right now. This is what we offer. So basically, we created a support agent. It has access to our FAQs, our knowledge base, and as tickets come in, it can triage those tickets and answer anything based off that knowledge base or those FAQs. So if it comes in and it's a question that your customer could have looked up themselves, 9 times out of 10 AI can just repeat that back to the customer, close out that Zendesk ticket. That saved you $5 because it could have took someone 30 minutes to attempt to do that or whatever.
And so just to clarify real quick, I was going to ask if, they can also take action. It sounds like it can. It's answering the question, then also closing the ticket so that the agents can perform actions as well. Is that right?
Yeah. So, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but we're big, right now we have a spectrum between control and agency, right? And I think, our mindset right now is we're leaning towards control, having a human in the loop, making sure that there's these different human touch points. And then as you're iterating, as you're optimizing on agents, you can move from control a little bit closer to agency. How much freedom does the AI have? How much freedom are you giving it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, today it is actively closing tickets on behalf. We're using it to have a human in the loop, and so that they can check the draft real quick and then
Mm-hmm.
send it off. And we want to kind of tighten some things up before we move fully to full agency, full autonomy,
Makes sense.
bounded autonomy.
And when it comes to these like support agents, so you have these 10 design partners, are these support agents being used in those companies for internal employees, or are they also building agents or conversational agents, support agents that they show their customers?
Yeah. So right, we have one organization who is using our platform to build for their external customer facing product. I think in the beginning, we're very open to both. I think as we're having more conversations with our customers, I think our niche is really that internal operational,
Mm-hmm.
efficiencies there. But we do, we're able to expose an SDK to where you can leverage an AI agent built on Celeria and just have it in your, homegrown product.
Cool. Awesome. And maybe one more use case that you want to highlight that you've seen people building and being interested in getting success with?
Yeah, I think so. One of my favorites is our Slack agent, and I can kind of be brief on this, but basically I can app Celeria inside of Slack anytime that I want. And what our Slack agent is a parrot agent, and what this agent does can triage to other sub agents. And so, depending on the context that I give it, say say me and my team are having a conversation about a story that we're implementing, a feature that we're implementing. That thread went on for 30, 45 minutes. And, typically what would happen as a, product manager, I'm sure you're in that, but at the end you would say, hey, all, this is what we talked about. This is the summary. Are we all on the same page? Maybe there's some back and forth there to say, well, no, Nick, this is actually what we meant by this, X, Y, and Z. And then from there, I would go inside Linear. I would generate a project or generate a task, and then, add some functional criteria and non-functional criteria. And that could, depending on the story or ticket or the complexity of what you're implementing, that could take up to an hour, So now all I need to do is just at Celeria, I can say, hey, Celeria, do we have a ticket for this already? It ingests, the context of just that thread that you're in. It can look in Linear and say, oh yeah, we have this story, XYZ. Okay, great. We'll bring this into the next sprint. Or it says, no, I haven't. Would you like me to generate one? Maybe give it some additional context. Yes, these are the 4 stories I want you to create or task. So that one, as simple as it is actually very, very it saves a lot of time, especially for product managers.
Yeah, I can attest to the same challenge you mentioned. Like, I don't even realize it, but 10 minutes go by and me and our founding product manager have had, a 30 message thread, and I'm realizing, okay, the engineers aren't going to go in and read all this and decipher what to pull out of it into a ticket. Before we wrap up, I have one more question. Sounds like, you have some pretty complex and useful use cases that people are building across Celeria. My question, as agents start to get into production, we're seeing this trend and theme. It's great. People now know where they want to use AI. They're getting into production using products like Celeria. And now they want to see, like, you mentioned this a little bit yourself, usage. They want to see who's using the agents when. They want to see, are the agents doing a good job? Now that you're giving, it sounds like you guys are very careful with like control versus autonomy, which is great. You're trying to make sure like the agent's doing what we want. Maybe you have a human in the loop. But as time goes on, more of these AI agents are going to be more autonomous. They're going to have more capabilities, like you said, creating tickets, deleting them, updating them. How are you at Celeria monitoring that? Do you do like, when a new model comes out, do you run, comparisons? And then really people are starting to wonder more about production. How do you watch that in production? If Nancy does a prompt that's incorrect, get some data back, it updates a ticket wrong. Maybe she doesn't even realize that happened. Are your customers given tools that they can monitor that, or is that kind of on you guys to keep track of that for them and let them know that, hey, we're making this change to the prompt of this agent to improve it, or do you give them the ability to do that?
Yeah. So right now you can integrate with any MCP server that, any custom MCP or anything like that. So any of our clients, customers can hook up to any, say, testing suite or something like that. The way we think about it at Celeria is twofold. So we think of making sure that your agents are reliable and have the expected outcome before going to production, right? How do we ensure that before you go to production? And I think that's where evals comes into place of, how do I ensure that the reliability of this is up to my standard before we go to production? And the other side of this, and internally we've been calling this outcomes, is saying, okay, after production, it's out there, it's living in the real world. How do we make sure that the results are reliable? And that when I did close a ticket, that's an outcome. Okay, a Zendesk ticket was automatically closed. How do I ensure the reliability of that is accurate, right? So it's like twofold. We have our outcomes, which is saying, hey, you've closed 100 Zendesk tickets today, or, this week. But then how do you know that's reliable, right? Like, how do you know those 100 tickets were actually closed appropriately? And so, a lot of people can say you can do a human in the loop. That's not to scale. So I think that's where it goes back on that pre-production evals, being able to, make sure you have reliability beforehand. What does bad look like? What does neutral kind of look like? And then what does, good look like? And then I think the neutrals can be passed on to, a human in the loop. Okay, let's get them human in the loop. The goods, we can send those off. And I think just like best practice, every so often, not sure the cadence, but having a human go back in there, kind of pull some random examples and then verifying those at, a given cadence, I think is really healthy. So that's kind of how we've been thinking about it. And as we're scaling agents, we're having sub agents interacting with other sub agents, context being shared from one agent to another agent. You don't want more context, you don't want less. So yeah, we think being able to test those things very important.
Appreciate it. That's super insightful and helpful for folks that are listening and getting into production and wanting to make sure that what they're shipping is working properly. Well, really appreciate the time, Nick. It's been a great conversation. I want to put your website up on the screen for a second, Celeria.ai, and maybe give the audience an idea of like who should be going to your site and requesting access. How do they get in contact? I know you just launched your MVP. Are they ready to take on more customers, or is that going to be a public launch soon?
Yeah. So, like I said, we're in early access right now. We're slowly turning on the tap more and more every week. How folks can help me. Well, who are those folks? So basically anyone who has an AI initiative right now, or if you've been at home twiddling your thumbs thinking of like, crap, I know I need AI in my company. My competitors are flying by. Don't know where to start. Love just to have a conversation, even if it's, not our product, at least send you down the right path. But the most helpful thing for us right now is just talking to customers. So, we're talking to a lot of customers every single week. If you request access, you can join our early access. What that will lead to is just a simple conversation between you and I. We can kind of dive deeper into some of your use cases, or if you don't even have use cases, we can, ideate and help you kind of get to that place. But yeah, I think, super helpful for us is just reach out. I'm on LinkedIn, Nick Muscolas, or you can reach out via here. Super friendly and always wanting to talk to customers. So.
Amazing. Thanks, Nick. And everyone, please check out Celeria.ai, get in contact with Nick, and I'm sure it'll be a fruitful conversation. Appreciate having you on and for taking the time, and looking forward to following along with Celeria as you guys go from early access to scaling out the product and the team. So thanks again for joining.
Hey, thanks for having me, Tyler. Thank you.
Have a good one.